I understand. Yeah. And he made a speech yesterday that was pretty amazing. He said, and he blamed the Republicans in general, which I think is awesome. I've tried to do that many times. I don't quite have the forum he does, so I was glad to see him getting at it. He says they've been feeding their base all kinds of crazy for years, saying I wasn't born here, calling me the Antichrist. This was just politics. He said, I love this line. He said, they stood by while this happened, and Donald Trump, as he's prone to do, he didn't build the building himself. He just slapped his name on it and took credit for it. And it's so true. You know, they can get rid of Donald Trump, but can they get rid of Trumpism?
No, because in part, as Obama says, their party is built on it. And there's this sense that Donald Trump is such an outsized, terrible candidate that he's like some guy who Hillary won at a raffle, that it's like some quirky coincidence that she's got this guy. But the fact is, Republican voters who knew they were going to be facing Hillary Clinton, who hate Barack Obama, who object to the people who vote for Democrats, people of color and women, selected a candidate who embodies the racism and sexism that are the very forces that kept people of color and women disenfranchised for centuries and away from the White House until now. Yeah, okay, they picked him.
Look, I know a fair number of Trump supporters. A lot of fellow Medal of Honor recipients have endorsed Donald Trump. And my appeal is to them. They should be as outraged. They're the ones, actually, if you're going to have somebody to defend you, if you're a woman on the street and you want somebody to defend you, it's one of them. They're the ones that ought to be coming forward and say, that's too much. This is not they know it's not locker room talk. They know that's not the way you talk in the locker room. The coach would kick you off the team if you talk that way. They know that this is sexual assault. So the appeal needs to be to them. I think what the president was saying right politically, but the appeal right now needs to be to all those guys out there who are supporting Donald Trump, who know that what he said and the way he's behaving is wrong.
But you're from Nebraska.
Yes, I am.
Okay. When I look at the electoral map,
yeah,
I see states that Trump apparently cannot possibly lose. I mean, look at that. The pink are likely Republican, and the red are, you know, like he said, I could shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue and they wouldn't leave me. The people of Idaho, Wyoming, Arkansas, Oklahoma, West Virginia, Kentucky, I know they're Republican mostly, but they're human, right? These are human beings.
They are.
What the fuck does it take in this country to have being a human being supersede being a Republican?
Because here's what's happened, is because Trump, yes, he is a culmination of a lot of but he's dialed it up to 11, and he's really gifted at what he's doing. And what he's done is taken it just from this hostility to actually arguing, as he is right now, that the entire system is illegitimate, that this election is going to be fixed. He's telling us that right now, that Hillary Clinton herself is the beneficiary of a criminal system in which the FBI is complicit in letting her get away with this alleged crime when she should be in jail.
Right.
These are attitudes and views that have never been uttered at this level in American history. This is an attack upon the entire system. It's an attack upon our liberal democracy.
Right.
And that is what he is doing. And so
liberal with a small L.
Yes, with a liberal democracy that conservatives should embrace as well. Right. Yes, simple the fact that we have a free society that, for example, the press has an important role to play. That you can treat other political actors as if they were equals, rather than something that you have to dominate or have a crisis of your own psyche.
Look, I haven't been as critical as you have been of the Clintons, but I've had my share of criticism gone their direction. I'm as passionate as you are about having her be elected.
Right.
But there are really good people that are supporting Trump. And here's the problem. They watch the elites.
Can you, at this point?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
You can square that circle?
Yes, I can.
You can be a good person?
Well, actually, it's not a circle. You can't square a circle. A circle's a circle, you know. Did you do geometry?
But really, can you be a good person if you're for a guy?
Yes,
I don't
you
get
can.
that.
Well, it's
like saying,
look, you can't reach them if you begin by saying that they're monsters. You begin by saying that they're trying. Look,
If
If
the
you
basket
listen,
fits,
but the basket doesn't fit. If you listen,
if you're deplorable, I mean, if you have deplorable beliefs, you're deplorable.
Look, there are as many there are liberals who are deplorable. There's many. I don't think you
Not
can
in the
call.
same way.
But look at these
I don't
issues.
know about that.
The issues are obviously also propelling this. And the elites have failed. The elites failed with the Iraq War, which is a massive failure. No one took responsibility or accountability for that. They failed with the 2008 crash. No one took responsibility for that. It is true that mass immigration that is not properly controlled is driving down people's wages. It's true that when people out there thinking of voting for Trump watch this show, they feel they're being mocked, condescended to, and ridiculed in a way that does not help us move forward.
What a great segue. It's interesting that 5 that I count so far, very conservative newspapers who have not supported, endorsed a Democrat for a long time. The Arizona Republic since 1896, Cincinnati Enquirer 1916, Dallas Morning News 1940, the Houston Chronicle, the San Diego Union Tribune. Never support the Democrat. They are doing it. USA Today has never endorsed. They still don't, but they said don't vote for this one.
Right.
And then magazines, Rolling Stone, The Advocate, Wired have come out for Hillary.
Wow. Rolling Stone, who would have ever thought that?
Okay, but just to show that the equal time, there are some lesser-known magazines that have come out for Donald Trump. Would you like to see? These are some lesser known. For example, for Donald Trump, Car and Liar. They say Mr. Trump owns lots of cars and he lies his ass off. What's not to like? Unpopular Science is for Donald Trump. They rave, you can make up practically anything about climate change and this shithead will retweet it.
Absolutely.
Trump is the obvious choice. Wine aficionado.
I love that. That's my favorite.
They say you don't see this many bitches at the dog show.
Oh my God.
American sociopath. Their endorsement reads, while we can't sense or process normal human emotion, something about this Trump family just feels right. Good Housekeeper magazine. We hardly endorse Senor Trump because if we don't, he'll have us deported. Modern Mail Order Bride magazine. They say we've done business with this man and the check cleared. This magazine translates as highlights for child laborers. And they say, we support the orange American whose name we sew on the neckties. Finally, Ferret Fancy magazine says, what's in his head doesn't make him one of us, but what's on his head most certainly does. All right. And finally, new rule, and this one's for Trump voters. If you think you hate the establishment now, wait until he wins, and the Trump surrogates, that basket of inexplicables he sends out every day to speak for him, become the establishment. Wait until Steve Cortez and Katrina Pearson and Chris Christie and Omarosa are trundling down the corridors of power, bumping into the walls. We're thinking of giving these people the reins of power. I wouldn't put them on the bus without asking the driver to make sure they don't miss their stop.
I love Shady, though.
So in examining all of Donald Trump's surrogates, it's very helpful to remember that Trump actually once said this.
Always be around unsuccessful people because everybody will respect you. Do you understand that?
Well, it does explain Rudy Giuliani.
Yes. Absolutely.
Rudy Giuliani, who claims America never had a problem with terror attacks until Obama came along. Really? You can't even think of one? I'll give you a hint, Rudy. You make your living off of it. Donald Trump also once said, sometimes people will come into my office and they'll look great, sound great, dress beautifully. Everything is great. Then after you hire them, they turn out to be morons. Which explains his sons, Uday and Kuse. I mean, Trump Sr. in the White House is bad enough without these two American psychos putting plastic over the furniture so they can axe murder prostitutes while discussing Phil Collins. And how about the non-professionals? Have you seen Pastor Mark Burns?
Oh,
He's
God.
the pastor who gave the benediction at the Republican convention. And I'm not saying he's a total charlatan. It's possible that the free vial of holy oil available from his website can cure the sick. And if not, you can always use it as righteous lube. But he does seem to have lied about everything.
Yes.
Again, the bio that's on your website claims that you earned a Bachelor of Science degree. Did you make that claim?
I asked you just a moment ago as we were just opening up this, and first of all, I said that we were off the record.
I didn't
okay?
agree to that.
Yeah, but I did.
Yeah.
Did you catch that? The interviewer says, I didn't agree this was off the record, and he says, yeah, but I did.
Right.
What do you
Great
think for him?
context.
Secretary of State, maybe? Head of NASA, perhaps? Another familiar face on CNN for the Trump campaign is Margot Gutierrez, a leader of Trump's Hispanic Advisory Council, and quite a spokesman for his peeps he is. He once said, my culture is very dominant culture, and it's causing problems. If you don't do something about it, you're going to have a taco truck on every corner. Okay, first of all, would that be such a bad thing? You mean when I'm drunk, I don't have to wander around L.A. looking for a taco truck? That's the best argument for Hillary I've heard yet. But beyond that, Mr. Gutierrez is a real estate scam artist who's filed for bankruptcy 14 times. He's not just a Latino for Trump. He's a Latino Trump. Then there's, little Kayleigh McEnany, a kind of Ann Coulter without the empathy. And another young woman defending Trump, campaign spokesman, someone's crazy ex-girlfriend.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I mean Katrina Pearson, who wears a necklace made out of bullets from the Chanel Don't Tread on Me collection. And once defended it by tweeting, maybe I'll wear a fetus next time. About Trump's proposed Muslim ban, she said,
you know what? So what? They're Muslim.
in 2012, she tweeted, perfect. Obama's dad, born in Africa. Mitt Romney's dad, born in Mexico. Any pure breeds left?
Sick.
Pure breeds? Where do you study your talking points? By the light from a burning cross?
Absolutely.
She also blames Obama for launching the war in Afghanistan, even though it was 4 years before he was even in the Senate, and has said about nuclear weapons, what good is having them if you're not going to use them? If this were the $100,000 pyramid, I'd say things a mental patient says. So what do you think? Ambassador to the UN for her? But I'd have to say that of all the surrogates, my favorite has to be Mr. Michael Cohen. Just take a look at him in action on CNN.
But you guys are down. And it makes
Says
sense
who?
that there would...
Says who?
polls. Most of them. All of them?
Says who?
Polls. I just told you I answered your question.
Okay. Which polls?
All of them.
T-shirt. Says who?
Well played, sir. And he's a lawyer. In fact, he's the head lawyer at the Trump Organization. So we know he's awfully busy with lawsuits, like the one Trump filed against me in 2013. Remember that lawsuit? Okay. A lot of people remember it as a defamation suit. It wasn't. He was suing me to collect $5 million because I offered that to him if he could prove that his mother didn't, in fact, fuck an ape. So he went into court. This happened. He went into court and produced his birth certificate as if it was going to say orangutan on it. Yes, I made Donald Trump produce his birth certificate, and I'm very proud of that. Very proud of that. And finally, new rule: now that the Trump phenomenon seems to have peaked, Americans must ask themselves, why? Why, for so long, was there one set of rules for everyone who's ever run for president, and then suddenly a completely new set for this Donald Trump person? Because when it comes to lowering the bar, he really raised the bar. So, it's been a year and a day since Donald Trump descended on an escalator to announce he was running for president, and since then, he's just kept on descending. So let me take you back in time to the pre-Trump era and show you what people used to think was a monstrous political gaffe. Here's Al Gore and Bush the First, each doing something at a debate that the country found to be beyond the pale.
There's differences. Under Vice President.
We have a question right here.
Yes, how has the national debt...
Shocking, isn't it? Sighing and looking at your watch to show such blatant disrespect for our sacred democracy. Then there's this guy at a debate, bragging about his dick.
He referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee it.
What if Bush had done that? Read my lips, 6.5 inches. Or take the sensitive issue of race. There was a firestorm back in '92 when Ross Perot said to a black audience...
Now, I don't have to tell you who gets hurt first when this sort of thing happens, do I? You people do.
Oh my God, he said you people! Smother him with the AIDS quilt. George Allen was a rising star in 2006, and then his career was over when he said...
This fella here over here with the yellow shirt, Macaca, or whatever his name is.
Did you hear it? Did you hear it, everybody? He said macaca. Whatever the fuck that is. Trump tweets more racist shit than that before lunch. He retweets white supremacists. He began his campaign by calling an entire minority group rapists. He says our black president faked his birth and might be working with ISIS. He did this.
Look at my African-American over here. Look at him.
That's not worse than you people? And what about basic old dumbness? I seem to remember Dan Quayle being pronounced unfit for office dumb because he misspelled potato. And Sarah Palin's brief flirtation with respectability came crashing down when she could not name what news sources she read.
All of them, any of them that have been in front of me over all these years.
But Trump doesn't even pretend he can read. He just hears things. I'm hearing. A lot of people are saying. This is his favorite news source. He hears things. It could be from a passing mental patient. It could be the voices in his own head. And when he does When he does read, it's the National Enquirer, and he refers to it as the paper. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not being fair. He does have one other news source.
All I know is what's on the internet.
Right, me too. I get my news from Pornhub. No wonder he once said,
I love the poorly educated.
John McCain and Bob Dole, both veterans, but war does things to a man. Both were accused of being too angry to be president. After all, Bob Dole once said this.
And Senator Dole, is there anything you'd like to say to the Vice President?
Yeah, stop lying about my record.
What a raving lunatic! But this is okay.
I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
Yeah, what about that? Obama once just compared his poor bowling skills to the Special Olympics, cut to the apology tour, but we're good with this.
I don't know what I said.
And finally, the ultimate third rail, insulting the military. Obama got endless shit for once saluting with coffee in his hand, violating an ancient military rule dating to never.